William Blake was born at 28th Street, New Broadwick Street on November 28, 1757 in Soho, London, the third of 7 children of Blake's family. His father, James, was hosier, selling stockings and gloves for a living. At the same time, his mother, Catherine Hermitage, was a dedicated housewife that took care of the couple's 7 children, 2 of whom died in infancy. William, a strong-willed child and a natural prodigy, from a young age frequently absconded from school to wander through the streets of London. William attended school only long enough to learn to read and write, quit at the age of 10 and was homeschooled by his mother, Catherine Blake. Although the Blakes were English Dissenters, William was baptized at St. James's Church, Piccadilly, London on December 11. The Bible had an early profound influence on William, and it would remain a lifelong source of inspiration, influencing his life and works with deep spirituality. William Blake started experiencing visions at an early age, and his friend and journalist Henry Crabb Robinson wrote that Blake saw the head of God emerge in a window when Blake was 4 years old. He even supposedly saw Ezekiel the prophet under a tree and had a vision of a tree filled with angels. Blake's visions would greatly influence his works and writings. His parents did not take his visions seriously, and only his mother's pleadings prevented him from receiving a whipping. However, they did encourage his artistic talents. Young Blake started to engrave copies of sketches of Greek antiquities which his father had brought for him, a method preferred to actual drawing. In his youth, Blake's creative ability became glaring, and by age 10, his parents enrolled him in a well-regarded preparatory school for young artists, Henry Pass's Drawing School. There, he sketched the human figure by copying from the plaster cast of ancient statues. Blake read passionately on subjects of his choosing and made exploration into poetry during this period. His early works reveals knowledge of Ben Jonson, Edward Spencer, and the Psalms. The cost of attending formal art training was prohibitive, and the family decided that at the age of 14, Williams would be apprenticed to a master engraver, James Bashir, the engraver of the London Society of Antiquaries. Blake came to appreciate his training under Bashir, which had a significant impact on his work, especially when he was sent to Westminster Abbey to draw tombs and monuments, where his lifelong love of Gothic art was seated. Blake studied medieval and Renaissance art in his spare time, particularly Raphael, Michelangelo, and Dürer, who from Blake's point of view had produced a timeless Gothic art infused with Christian spirituality and created with poetic genius. At age 21, the young artist finished his apprenticeship and enrolled at the Royal Academy. However, his time was short-lived, repeatedly because he questioned the artistic doctrines of the president, Sir Joshua Reynolds, describing the academy as a cramped, imaginative environment. The adventurous artist began earning a living for various publications as a professional engraver, including famous books such as Don Quixote. Blake declared his admiration for ancient Greek art and also his sense of art and spirituality interrelated with each other. Importantly, however, the spiritual guides he claims governed his artistic vision never drove him into the confines of organized religion. He never attended church. William Blake met, courted, and married Catherine Bocher, a local grocer's daughter, in August 1782 at age 25. Partly because the pair had no kids, William dedicated a great deal of time to teaching Catherine how to read, write, and draw, while Catherine assisted her husband with his projects. William's friend, John Flexman, introduced him to Reverend Henry Matthew Bluestocking's wife, Harriet Matthew's aunt, whose drawing room was also an artist and musician's meeting spot. William gained support there by reciting his early poems and even singing them. A teen volume of poems under the title Poetical Sketches 1783 was published, thanks to the help of Flexman and Mrs. Matthew. Though profits were low, the finances of the Blakes were stable because of William's growing reputation as an engraver. Blake set up a print shop next door to the family store after his father died in 1784. His beloved brother Robert however, whom he had begun tutoring, died in 1787. After that, William believed that Robert communicated with him in visions. William claimed that it was Richard who inspired him with a new method of illuminated etching. In 1787, the budding artist created Songs of Innocence, 1789, as the first major work of his new process, followed by Songs of Experience, 1794. The great lyrics in these two collections carefully compared the simplicity of innocence with the bitterness of experience. They are a landmark because they are a rare instance of the successful union of two art forms by one artist. His other works created using the same process include The Book of Thiel, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, and Jerusalem. William was a nonconformist who was closely associated with predominant radical thinkers of his time like Thomas Paine and Mary Wollstonecraft. In violation to neoclassical conventions of the 18th century, William favored imagination over rationality in the development of both his poetry and images, arguing that ideal forms should be built not from observations of nature but inner visions. Works like The French Revolution 1791, America, A Prophecy 1793, Visions of the Daughters of Albion 1793, and Europe, A Prophecy 1794 reflect his opposition to the British monarchy and the political and social tyranny in general of the 18th century. He satirized authoritarian power in church and state in the prose work The Marriage of Heaven and Hell 1790-93, as well as the works of Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish philosopher. The ideas of the latter had once sparked his interest. Between 1793 and 1795, Blake created a remarkable series of illuminated works that became known as the Minor Prophecies in Europe, 1794, the First Book of Urizen, 1794, the Book of Loss, 1795, the Song of Loss, 1795, and the Book of Ahania, 1795. Blake formed the core outlines of his universal mythology. In these poems, Blake investigated the fall of man. Man and God were once together in Blake's mythology, but man split from God and became weaker and weaker as it became further divided. In 1800, Blake moved to a cottage in Feltham, Sussex, now West Sussex, to take up a job illustrating the works of a minor poet, William Halley. Blake started milling in this cottage. The titled book is dated 1804, but Blake continued to work on until 1808. Over time, Blake began to despise his new patron, thinking Halley was uninterested in true art and only fascinated with the mere drudgery of business. E724. Also, around this time, Blake was accused of uttering seditious, treasonous views. He was eventually found not guilty, but the incident caused the legendary poet to move back to London. William Blake had been a radical sympathizer with the French and American revolutions. He wrote The Foresource, a magical tale predicting the future, portraying how evil is embedded in man's basic faculties: reason, desire, instinct, and imagination. Imagination became a hero. Back in London in 1804, William began writing and illustrating his most ambitious work to date, Jerusalem, 1804 to 1820. He also began exhibiting more work at exhibits including Charles Canterbury Pilgrims and Satan Calling Up His Legions. Still, these plays were met with silence and negative reviews which labeled the exhibition a showcase of nonsense, unintelligibleness, and gross vanity, and referred to William as unfortunate lunatic. Devastated by the criticism and lack of attention to his work, he engraved a few plaques. There is no record of Blake making commercial engravings from 1806 to 1813. He also sank further into penury, misery, and paranoia. However, in 1819, William started to draw a series of visionary heads, stating that the historical and fictional figures he portrayed appeared to him and sat for him. By 1825, William had sketched more than 100 of them, including those of Solomon and the magician Merlin, and those found in The Man Who Built the Pyramids and Herod killed at the Battle of Hastings, along with most prominent imaginative heads featured in Williams' The Ghost of a Flea. Between 1823 and 1825, the renowned artist remained artistically active, engraving 21 designs for an illustrated book of Job from the Bible and Dante's Inferno. He started a series of 102 watercolor drawings of Dante in 1824, a project that would be cut short by Blake's 1827 death. In the final years of his life, William Blake suffered from frequent bouts of undiagnosed illness. He died on August 12, 1827, leaving unfinished watercolor sketches of Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress and an illuminated copy of the Bible's Book of Genesis. In death, as in life, Blake received short shrift from critics, and obituaries continued to highlight his traits at the expense of his creative achievements. Unappreciated in life, William Blake has since become a giant in literary and creative circles, and his imaginative approach to art and writing has not only unleashed countless spellbound theories about Blake, they have inspired a vast array of artists and writers. Thank you very much for watching our videos. We'll appreciate if you subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends. We love you.